And today we have a very special guest. It is PixelFlex's own Vice President of Sales, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. John Lewis.
Howdy, howdy.
Wow, such a big intro.
Came short on that.
We're like 2 offices down, so it was feel like very suspenseful.
I know.
Yeah, I just threw a tennis ball into his door from my office with a little note that said, "Can you be on the podcast?"
What do they call those? What is that, fishing?
Oh,
what
like
do they
a
call
kite.
it? Like a kite?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I only know those prison terms from watching that show, so nobody worry. So it's the top of the year. We're January 4th right now.
Yep.
So I hope everybody has survived 2023.
Yeah,
This
this is circle back season. So you've been circling back after the holidays. That's now.
Yeah.
Circle back season.
So this might be the worst time of the year because there was plenty of circling back that I was going to do that I now have to live up to.
It's mind-boggling how you can go from the most wonderful time of the year straight into the worst.
Yeah.
There's no...
Yeah, I mean, honestly, here at Elite, it feels like we've hit the ground running. I don't know if you guys are seeing that on your side, but we're actually seeing a lot more traction at the top of the year than I was expecting.
So we're more B2B, and so we're waiting for the traction to hit for our clients to get to their clients.
Yeah,
so
sure.
there's like this kind of
Little bit of a lag.
crossover lag. Yeah, I haven't hit the ground yet. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, before we get too deep into that, kind of give us the 30,000 foot view of John Lewis. Where'd you grow up? What do you want to be when you grow up? And how different was the journey from that vision as a 3-year-old John Lewis?
Yeah. So I was born in Duluth, Minnesota.
Hey, shout out to Duluth
Minnesota.
Yeah, Duluth Trading Co.
Yeah.
That's what's up. Yep. I was born up there. Lived.
Is this what Fargo was filmed? Or based off of it?
Well,
I'm pretty sure
Fargo is Fargo, but...
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know.
There's a lot of Fargo scenes that were like in Minneapolis area.
Minneapolis, okay.
Yeah, they were. Like if you saw a highway that wasn't just the middle of nowhere, that was
Yeah.
probably like Minneapolis.
Copy.
So grew up northern suburbs of Minneapolis, the Twin Cities.
Twin Cities.
Yep, Twin Cities. So grew up doing that. Went to, high school, college, what I wanted to be. I don't know. I always wanted to do something with music of some kind. That was kind of my thing. I always wanted to do something with music. So being from a small town, kind of just getting the internet, my dad's favorite joke growing up was, I don't want a computer in the house because then I'd have a mouse problem. That was like his classic dad joke.
Nice.
So, we got the internet kind of late, and I'm from a small town. And so
Better put it like kind of early high school for you?
Yeah, early high school. Exactly.
Yeah,
That's when I got it.
Same.
We got the net.
AOL?
AOL 4.0.
Yeah, man.
Dial-up modem?
I had a gateway with AOL dial-up, baby.
There you go. A gateway.
Yeah.
I think I got a hand-me-down 406. So.
Very nice.
Yes, sir.
I had Net Zero right before AOL. I don't know if you guys remember Net
I remember
Zero.
Net Zero.
Yeah? All right. AOL dial-up modem.
It was fantastic. And then from there, I was like, cool, I'm going to go to school to do music of some kind. So I was enrolled at University of Minnesota Duluth. I was going to go do a music ed major. I was going to teach music because I just loved it. And then I absolutely bombed my recital requirement to get in. I had just got my braces off and couldn't play my instrument. That was a brutal story.
What were you playing?
French horn.
Oh, man.
Yes, sir. French horn. I learned to play guitar in 7th grade when I didn't have any friends. I just played guitar.
So that was your plan to get friends then?
That was no. What it was, I just had nothing else to do with my time, and I picked up a guitar and I played 8 hours a day.
Wow.
All summer because I had no friends, nothing else to do, and I just played guitar. And I showed back up in 8th grade, and I was the best guitar player in the grade. That was a small town.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then when I flunked the recital portion of my French horn life, a buddy of mine came back and said, "Hey, I'm going to school for audio recording." And I said, "Audio recording? They have a school for that?" I'm from a small town. So I immediately enrolled in that and did that for my 3 years of college, got out of that. And then in that process formed a band and did the local scene for quite a few years. I was in a band for, I think, 10 to 12 total years. So like 3 or 4 band lifetimes. Band lifetimes are 3 years.
Yeah.
And so in that process, kind of the band, it started as an excuse to hang out with my best friends. And then it kind of actually turned into a job and turned into being in a van, touring the country. We ended up getting signed, did the record label thing.
What type of music was this?
Christian pop rock.
Okay.
Almost the entire time was just Christian pop rock of some kind, some flavor. Ended up on Tooth and Nail Records.
Okay.
And got to work with some of my favorite producers. Had a really great time. Being in a band I always say it's the best way to spend your 20s. It's like you're on the road with your best friends. You're on a constant permanent road trip.
Yeah.
You don't have any money, but you don't have any bills.
Right.
Yeah. Well, what was the life cycle of that being signed? How long was that for you guys?
2 records, right around that 3-year period of being signed. We were signed for about 3-ish years. The band ultimately, we actually got dropped because our record label got bought by Capitol Records. So I was on the same label as Katy Perry for like 2 weeks. Prime.
Is that on your card now?
That's on my VP of Sales card. Yeah, I was on the same record label as Katy Perry. Yeah. So a couple weeks, and then I think our label knew it, and they just couldn't tell us. So they were like kind of rushing our second record.
Right.
And then we got the ultimate news kind of at the very start of our second record. Kind of presser. And so we just kind of were on a little bit of a downhill slide from there. And then.
So did you guys actually get a full cycle out of that second record? Or
we got about a half cycle.
Okay.
Got about a half cycle. We got a single and a half. Our second single we self-promoted, which doesn't do much for you. So, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that kind of happens. Where does everybody go after that? Because I feel like that's kind of a shock to the system.
Yeah.
Because you're riding high on that whole thing, and then kind of the rug's pulled out from underneath you. So what's that do to the band, I guess?
Yeah. So there was kind of this moment where some of the guys were, kind of, as long as the band's always progressing, I'm in. I'm all in. And then when we kind of started on the backside of what do we do now that we're independent, we kind of got into this, what else is there for me kind of mode. And so a couple of us decided to hang on for a little bit while longer, because really, from a character development perspective, I had never been anything else other than a creative my entire life.
How old are you at this point?
I am 29.
Okay.
28, 29.
So you're coming up to the end of the.
I was going to say that's like the latter part. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the later part of the 20s. What I was saying, that's the best time to be in a band, right? Is right at that very tail end of your 20s. And so at that point, all of the boys were still in Minnesota. I was actually in Texas, living with my wife. She was working, and then she got a job offer to move to Nashville and offer to move back to Minnesota to do the exact same thing. It's just, which role do you want? And I'm like, honey, I'm sleeping on couches in Nashville all the time. Can we go do that? And so that's how we moved to Nashville.
What year was that? Did you guys end up here?
Oh man, 2012, 2013. 2012.
Oh wow! So you were actually here after I got here. I got here in 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right around the same time, probably.
Right.
Yeah, it's around the same time.
Yeah,
Nice.
2012, I would say. Because
Okay,
I think
cool.
we've been married a year. Got married in 11. Yeah.
Okay.
So
What was
2012.
this question as you were telling the story? So and you said Christian pop rock was ultimately the genre of music you guys are playing.
Yeah.
But what were you, when you were in the guitar practicing when you were younger?
Yeah.
What were you listening to? Like, what was the inspiration, I guess, behind that? You're like, I want to play like that, or like playing along with the records, you know what I mean, or whatever it was. What was the music? Was it Christian music?
It was some. So, like Jesus Freak, when Jesus Freak came out, like I went to the store and bought the tab book, and I can play like every Jesus Freak song. I mean, I probably need to look up the tab again, but I can play all of that. So a lot of like Christian rock coming up from like the late 90s, and then quite a bit of influence from whatever was on the radio that actually had a guitar in it.
I mean, the late 90s in Christian music was probably the pinnacle.
It was awesome.
Of Christian music, as far as like, someone's going to yell at me for saying this, but before it became like super... I don't know. It got real watered down after that.
Do you want to go down the rabbit hole of how that happened, or do we want to stay focused on?
We probably shouldn't. Somebody's gonna get mad at us. For those that know will know. But I mean, so coming out of the mid '80s through the '90s, that was the big. Awesome. That was where everybody was in their own. It was actually. God, I'm going to get yelled at. It was when it was really creative as far as musically and sonically. That's when it was.
We had such an eclectic source, and music festivals were fully embraced at that point. And so like you had all these different stages where you could promote what you were doing.
Yeah.
So you had like the Jars of Clay doing something totally over here. The Audio Journal was blowing up over here.
Right, so I
And
guess
then Phil
that's
Keaggy's over here on the side stage playing hippie music. It was
That's
awesome.
the best way to describe it. Was in the mid 80s to the late 90s, there were genres of Christian music
It is.
versus now there's
Christian
just
music.
the genre of Christian music.
That's right.
Yeah, for sure.
That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And
That's crazy.
That was the crazy thing about it is like, you know, festival life was like the band life is we would just travel to all the festivals to play the side stages because there was actually rock radio then. It's like you had a chance to get your stuff on that and promote yourself that way. And so that's what we were living. We were living in a van down by a side stage at a festival.
Oh, nice.
Some of them by a river.
The only reason I asked that question is because, well, I play somewhat of the drums. And when I was practicing, you know, I played in the church band, but it was like I would practice to these like Metallica records.
Yep.
Because it's the one that really called my attention. So my mom would come in and be like, "What are you doing? You can't practice here doing this." And I'm like, "Why? I'm not going to play this at church." It's like, "No, you should play something else." But again, this was like the Latino Christian music, and there wasn't really any of that. So that's when when you're talking about that era, I'm like, really? There was an era that happened? I'm like,
Yeah, I mean,
nobody told me.
I would say it was probably started in the beginning of the 80s because like the Phil Keaggy era, and then I would say it started to taper off. What, mid 90s is when it kind of started.
Mid to late. It's really when radio, just to go on the quickest tangent, it was really when radio decided to do testing.
Yeah.
And what they found was that when the radio promoter who was choosing the songs, and they're choosing all the Caveman's Call songs to go number one, about the time that the promoter was sick of hearing the song, their audience was just starting to recognize the song. And so it slowed down the entire progression of what was getting on the radio. And when you go from 5 ads a week to 1 a month or 2 a month, it completely slows the game down.
Right.
And now it goes to, well, what song actually will target this audience?
Right.
And then the whole game changed at that point. So
How great was that? So we're moving out of the glory years of the late 20s.
Yeah.
Where does that put you now? You're in Nashville.
Yep.
What are you looking at prospect wise? What's your game plan now?
Wait, before you go into that, one last question. One question about the touring days.
sticking on the touring days.
I
Let's go.
gotta. This is on my mind as you were telling the story. So, like, okay, Christian pop rock touring, mostly, obviously, U.S. Did you have the same issues that I would say a secular band at that time was having? You know, as far as like, you know, or did you guys like restrict yourselves?
What are some of those issues that you're thinking about? I'm just kind of curious.
You know, it's just like when you're playing a lot of these music, I assume you guys are doing a lot of like Christian festivals and concerts. So did you guys ever have like, hey, let's do these illicit activities over here, or the groupies? I like how you wanted me.
Such a politically correct way to get there.
I was trying to go this way and that way.
Yeah.
Did you have that happen, or it wasn't really like an issue with you guys?
So the guys were more or less straight edge for the most part. And so straight edge was like no alcohol, no drugs, keep it pretty clean. Was there episodes of groupies and things, or people with different area codes? Yeah, there was more than I realized. That wasn't a thing for me, but there was some of that.
Yeah, there were my short stint in that space. I can tell you that at varying degrees, those activities and issues exist across all
genres.
The thing you got to keep in mind is when you're dirt broke, you don't have any money for the extracurricular activity, and you don't have the privacy for the extracurricular activity when you're in a van. Once you get into the touring on the tour bus and you've got a bus stock and you've got all the stuff, like we were just excited if the green room had anything on our list of things to have. Like we'd be like, we have Twizzlers, you guys. We're so excited.
You were green room raiders.
We were green room raiders for sure.
Yeah,
for us getting a shower because the bus driver took off and he had an open room so we could shower, that was a big deal. So you have to keep in mind like the separation. We just didn't have the privacy or resources to really get into a whole lot of trouble. To me, some of my most fun activities on the road were finding places to cliff jump and play disc golf. Like we were very PG.
Well, and I mean, I assume we're talking 12-passenger van here.
15.
Not a sleeper. We're talking row seats, the whole deal, swapping drivers. Yeah, I mean, so it smells like a middle school locker room in there, and all those fun things.
Yeah. Now, guys pull it off. Kudos to them. That wasn't my thing. That wasn't my thing. But again, the extracurricular, we were all straight edge. We were all pretty straightforward, and we didn't have the money to go do X, Y, Z, and
Yeah, and did that put a strain on your relationship as friends?
No, I think it actually made it great. Like, there's a lot of guys that would say, I don't know how you guys can do that. Like, how can you guys live in a van and have no world to yourself? And the reality is we were best friends on the road, living our lives together. And so, like, when other people would jump in the van with us, they'd be like, wow, you guys actually talk and hang out and like live life together. And so we had a very unique relationship. Our old manager, Zach Williams' manager, he was like, I ran into him the other day and he was like, you are quite literally the only band that broke up and you're still great friends.
I was going to make that comment. It's interesting that kind of the dissolution of your band was not due to the fact of internal strife. It was just external that kind of caused that to break up. Just kind of
mostly life. Like, hey, we're ready to like actually do something with our lives. Now, was that very difficult? Did I go through the 7 stages of grief and all of the brutal parts of like figuring out who the heck I am anymore? I don't know who I am. I've only been a creative my whole life. Yeah, it was super brutal and difficult. And I think for everyone else, that was the same case as well, for the rest of the guys. But yeah, we didn't break up because we didn't like each other. Like,
that's awesome.
It's awesome. Yeah, we all hang out now. We actually got together and had a band practice last summer for the first time in like 10 years.
How rusty were you?
Oh, it was horrible. It was awesome.
Yeah.
No, it was actually not that bad. Actually, because you have so many built-in things into your vocal cords. I hit notes that I had haven't tried to hit in 10 years, and they were still in there. It was super fun. Yeah, it was super cool.
Damn.
Yeah.
You good? You got any other?
I got the answer.
You got anything else in the grab bag over there?
No, I like that. I like that. You can go ahead with yours.
Extracurricular. Yeah. Not a whole lot of stories there for you.
So we're in Nashville. Are you still trying to music business this kind of thing when you guys first get here, or have you already decided that I got to jump off and I've got to start looking at other things?
Yeah. So the quickest version of that is we were still doing work. It was kind of around the same time the record came out. We were kind of getting dropped. There's kind of this process. We were still trying to figure it out. But it ended pretty quickly. I'd say we were in town for maybe 6 months or maybe something like that.
And you were the only one here, right? Like everybody else was still in
Everyone
Minnesota.
else was in Minnesota, so I was doing a lot of traveling back and forth. And so when the band broke up, our manager's like, well, what do you want to do? And I'm like, I have no idea. So I started like talking to the relationships we had in town. Like, do I want to do anything solo? What do I want to do? And I just kind of was putzing around with it and not really sure what I wanted to do as I was going through the stages of grief. And what ended up happening eventually is I got a call and it was like, hey man, I know you're kind of looking for work or looking to do stuff. Do you want to come in and help me do inventory?
Yeah.
And that was Peter Strife.
Okay.
And Peter Strife called and said, hey, why don't you show up and help us do some inventory in the new Cowan building? And so I came in and started just working hourly in the warehouse for Elite.
Yeah, because that would have been what, like 20? They moved here in like 2012.
That's it. 12? It's right in that time frame. Yep. And so they had just moved in. The mud was still drying on the walls from the flood. And so I came in, and what's super funny is Angela started right around that time, and then the first CEO of PixelFlex and Elite, Monty, his first day when he was being introduced in the company was my first day picking shelves and doing inventory. And so he walked up to me. He's like, hey, man, I'm going to be interviewing everybody. I'm going to be talking to everybody. And I'm really looking forward to learning, what you know about this industry. And I'm like, I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy. I'm rolling cable in the back, man. That's all I'm doing. Yeah. And so that was like day one. And then I started getting I got like a Camp Electric gig, and because they knew I did audio, because I went to school for audio.
And I guess I should clarify. Yeah. We are talking about your time at Elite. We kind of skipped over that. I want to make sure everybody got that. Okay. So this is right after Elite moved out of Memphis, moved to Nashville, and so this is you coming to work at Elite.
Yeah. Please continue to set me up, because I'll just segue.
Yeah, no. Well, I realized we had skimmed over that. I was like, well, I want to make sure that we plug this company's podcast. So
good call.
Yeah. So that's how I got my foot in the front door. Was just a literal phone call of Peter being like, hey man, you want to help me do inventory? I know you're looking for a couple hours here and there. And so then I got a couple audio gigs, and then I did CMB Momentum down in Orlando. I did Camp Electric, and so I was around all of the guys I knew. Right. Like I'd show up and be side stage helping set up, run backline or stage manage, and they'd all be like.
Right, it's the same players.
Oh my God, it was all the same people. And so I was running into all of my friends that I was touring with. And it was super great seeing everybody and just kind of being on that side of it and actually making a buck. It was pretty nice.
Yep.
We had done all of those events.
I was going to say, that was a real change for
those.
those.
It was real crazy, yeah. But like even going to Momentum was crazy because we had played the year before that. Like we had played on the stage. Cece was the stage manager at the time. And then the next year I'm working alongside of her. And she was like, weren't you there last year? And I'm like, yeah, I was on the stage last year.
Well, so I'll set that one up too. So CMB Momentum is Christian Music Broadcasters?
Christian Music Broadcasters.
So it's kind of it's like the big, I don't know what isn't there like a conference that goes on with it, right? Yeah. But it's like everybody in Christian music is like in the same spot at the same time.
Because they're there trying to get those 1 or 2 placements.
Right.
That we just talked about.
It's a bunch of programmers, a bunch of radio stations, but it's like literally almost everybody from Christian music is there. And I think they actually started moving like Rock the Universe and Night of Joy, like that stuff ended up being around that time because it made sense because you could play one or the other and be at CMB, and it made sense for everybody.
And that's actually how we got there. Is we bought a slot onto Rock the Universe,
which is the Universal.
Yep, it was great. We got to go ride all the rides with like a liaison walking us up that back. We felt like total rock stars, and then we went to Momentum and played at Disney. It was super fun. Nice. So we're doing all that, but now I'm working it, right? Mm-hmm. And then from there, I got asked to come and do the Casting Crowns tour, and so I came in to interview. And that was my forage into LED. So I walked in the front door to do an interview with Tom and Peter, and I sat down to do this. And I was like, I don't think I want to do this. LED, from what I've seen, is very tedious. I'm an audio guy. Like that just looks horrible. Like all I see is guys soldering all day, and I don't even know how to solder.
I was gonna say this is like Gen 1 kind of like PixelFlex curtain.
OG PixelFlex 20 millimeter. OG 20 millimeter.
Yeah, it's funny. Angela and I were talking about this the other day. I remember seeing it on tour, and we have come a long way.
A long way.
A long way. That's all I'm going to say. We've come a long way.
So I cut my teeth on the 20 mil. And so when I got out of the interview, I was like, oh my gosh, I actually really want to do this. Like, this sounds really great. Ended up getting the gig, and I had about 10 days to learn how to LED from scratch. And luckily, my tour was with Snooch. And so Snooch got me, I think you guys just interviewed him, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, so my first tour with LED was Snooch running LD and doing video, I think, with sync. And I was just trying to make sure the wall was working on this arena tour. And what was wild for me is doing that tour was amazing because we were out with King and Country's out there, and I had played a ton of shows with those guys in my band Highland, and played a ton of the same venues because I'd been out with Acquire the Fire. Playing Acquire the Fire. So here I am setting up and doing shows for casting on the same stages and venues that I'd just been out with for King and Country and Acquire the Fire. And like, it was very surreal being like, wow, I'm backstage wearing all blacks. And I, a year ago I was on that stage running around like a crazy person.
Not making any money.
Yeah. But living the dream, right?
Yeah.
Right. Of course.
Yeah.
So how long did you just do that one tour with Crowns?
Yep. So that was a full year of Crowns. I did the spring and the fall. And then towards the end of that, I got a phone call saying, hey, we need some more sales guys, some more junior sales guys. Do you want to come sell? LED. I'd never sold before. I'd never done any of that. But I was like, well, I used to have to try to get people to sell or to buy CDs from me. Yeah. Right? Like you didn't know who my band was, but I needed to sell you this CD.
Yeah.
And I know LED. So yeah, well, let's do it. And so I came in and started after 1 year being out with casting. Came in, I think that would be 14.
Okay.
Yeah, 14, I think, is the year I started junior sales with PixelFlex.
All right, so that was your official jump to the other side.
That's right.
Okay.
So all of that to get to just starting to get to now where I'm doing now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what? Well, let's go to this. So what was your first big sale as a junior associate? What did you clinch that made a name for yourself?
Man. Trying to think if there was anything significant in the first few years.
I'm setting you up, man. I'm trying to give you that.
You're trying to help me, man. So one of the more crazy ones I did early on we did, because keep in mind at this point we were selling just curtain all day, every day, right? Like just curtain. Oh, you need this? I have curtain. You need this? I have curtain.
Yeah.
But we did end up, one of the cooler ones we did was there was a Baptist church in southern Georgia, and we put it on rollers. And so there was like all of this rolling curtain coming in and out.
Okay, that's cool.
Super cool. I didn't really hit any name brand things right away. Like I didn't hit any big names.
Well, I also feel like at that point, PF probably, that wasn't really the market we were in at that point. I mean, it was mostly house of worship stuff.
So for me, the sales that I remember were the ones where we pushed into a new market. And it's like, hey, this is the first time we've sold this product into this territory and we've done this thing. So like the name brand selling pieces really weren't early wins for me. I wasn't winning those things. Because for me, when you're in sales, you're thinking brand name, retail, you're trying to get that kind of stuff focused. So it wasn't, we weren't selling into a lot of these like big music names or anything like that.
So
no, go ahead. I was going to say, I want to make sure you get some. I was going to veer off into another place. So I want to make sure that you get
I didn't help you land the plane there. I was
like, let me just get this in before we move on.
Yeah.
All right. So sales role, right? You're like, oh man, I got to sell.
Yeah.
Did you kind of like dabble in a little bit, as far as like look up something, how to sell LED, or did you read a couple books? Glenn Rossett. What were the, I would say, like, what was the thing that like kind of kept you going, or that you looked into?
Yeah, so that's actually great. So kind of day one, I went out and just like bought 5 sales books. I'm like, just gonna buy 5.
Can you name them? Hey man,
I have them on the shelf.
The only reason is because I'm a huge, like, I look at these like, spin selling, pitch anything, and I'm always kind of like, looking at this stuff, and I love it because of like the, the back end stuff of like frame control and all that. So that's why I'm like curious. If you don't know them, it's cool, man.
No, I mean, keep in mind, it's 10 years ago, right? Sales acceleration formula was awesome because it helped me realize that by the time people actually reach out to you, if you had a website, they were 60% of the way through the buying cycle. They've already kind of done a bunch of research, and that didn't used to be the case in old school selling. It used to be door to door before the internet. They couldn't find you. Yeah. So acceleration formula was cool because you actually just didn't try to you weren't trying to persuade people right out the gate. You assumed they knew something about you, and you were potentially the favorite walking in the front door. They just needed to know if they could afford you.
Right.
So that was a great starting point. I think I grabbed 5 books and I read all of them, and then I threw like 3 of them away and kept like 2. Keep in mind the first day on the job was, here is a price list. Here is a login to the CRM. The end. That was my onboarding process. Just nothing. Just figure it out. We got you. We'll figure it out.
Right.
Yeah, so it was pure, like, here's an email, here's an Excel spreadsheet with our pricing in it, and just go. Just go. Nice. Yeah, so that was like, and then the other, I kind of brought up the character development part of it. Like, I didn't tell my buddies I was in sales for a year because I was such in this, like, I'm a creative, I'm a musician.
Didn't want to feel like you sold out.
Yeah, it felt like a sellout at first. And once I got into it, I realized I was already doing that. I was already myself that whole time, but I had to like find that for myself. Like,
it's like, wait a minute, I was selling though.
I was selling the whole time.
Yeah, you were just the product.
I was just selling myself as the product versus I'm selling something else that I cared about, right? Because to me, consultative selling is how to do it. I firmly believe that my solution will fix your problem. That is sales. And so once I discovered that I wasn't this sleazy car salesman, which my dad thought I was for a few years.
Of course, naturally, outside looking in.
Yeah, like, oh, you're in sales. Ooh, that's But no, he just didn't know. And realizing that it wasn't actually what I was doing. I wasn't actually just selling you something sleazy. I genuinely believed in it. Yeah. And I think that's how all sales really should be. It almost doesn't work if you don't genuinely believe in what you're selling for a product.
I feel like most informed consumers can see that from a mile away.
Yeah.
If it's an act.
When you drive by a car dealership and you have to think about going and buying a car, you're like, do I have to?
Yeah.
And there's great selling experiences out there. Like they're redefining that daily, but there's still that stigma.
Yeah, that traditional model.
I gotta go deal with the guy telling me, my manager says we can do,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Getting attacked by vultures as soon as you walk on the lot.
That's right.
No offense to any car salesman.
No, none. I mean, balloons work, man.
Wild, wailing, inflatable, flailing arm guy.
That's right.
So that's something that you had kind of help you out from your previous like let's call it career, into sales, what else kind of like you were like, oh, wait a minute, I'm kind of used to this already. Let's keep going.
Yeah. So I think a lot of it is now that I've kind of learned on the back end, kind of like what my personality type even is and like kind of how I'm wired. There's a general sense that rapport is a very awkward thing if you're not a rapport person.
Right.
Like, how do you build rapport in sales? And like, to me, that was never really an issue because
It was a naturally occurring thing for you.
it goes back to the Tourmageddon concept you guys keep covering, like being a good hang. Like you needed to fit in on a bus and be a good hang on a bus in those cramped spaces and just doing life with people. That comes naturally based on my background and what I had done for 10 years. Is like being in a room with you, like we're going to find something in common and we're going to hang out and we're going to bro down. Like it's going to be okay. And being able to apply that to sales in like a really awkward corporate-y environment is such a breath of fresh air that it was like walking into a room and being like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
Right. Like I know this. I have this.
I know how to do this. Like I just know how to hang out. Like knowing how to hang is an art form, but once you do it, it's natural at that point. And that fits into, you know, coming off the road and being like, what's more important, knowing what you're doing or being a good hang? I literally got hired for casting because I was a good hang. I didn't know anything about LED when I walked in the front door.
Story of my career.
Yeah.
It's like a theme and there's truth to it. And it also applies to selling, right? Like, you know, you have these guys like, yeah, I'm a great seller. I'm a closer. Yeah, but are you a jerk?
Well, I mean, it goes back to your point. Do you have to hype yourself up to walk onto the car lot? And if you like, you don't want to hang out with those people. Yeah. So if you're a good hang, you don't have people trying to hype themselves up to hang out with you.
You end up with better clients too, because you have people that are like, they're relieved to have a good experience and they're relieved to have someone that's genuinely wanting to see them taken care of.
You're not going to attack them out of the gate to do business. Yeah. Really. I mean, you and I have hung out on that end in some of our recent projects. And I think that's exactly what I see is, it's just a hangout. When we get to there, when it comes up naturally and we can talk about it, great. Yep. If it doesn't come up this go around, okay.
Not forcing it.
We're just going to hang out again. And honestly, I feel like that just builds a relationship. Yeah. And it makes it more likely to happen later on.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but okay, so, right, you got to be a good hang, build these, build rapport, good relationships. But at the end of the day, you want to make the sale, right? Mm-hmm. So how would you balance that as far as like, I want to be a good person, but I need to feel I'm generally talking to this person. We're here because I want to make this go. So like, how was that process for you?
Yeah. So, I think there's a lot of different ways to close the sale. I think that asking great questions is job number one. You've got to understand what the client needs. Because at the end of the day, acceleration formula, they're coming in 60% of the way through the deal. They want to work with you. They wouldn't reach out if they didn't want to work with you. So you have to go in assuming you're the favorite. And if you're not, you need to find out you're not real quick and get out of there. Right. So like, that's a huge learning curve. That's a Chris Voss thing. Yeah. Never split the difference. You've got to make sure that you're not the fool. Just they're looking for a dollar quote to go get their favorite guy. Right. So you've got to come in with the assumption that you can provide the solution. And if you firmly believe you can provide that solution and you're the guy, it's all about going and getting it and convincing. It's not convincing you want me. It's like, no, we're in the same room. Like you wouldn't be here. Like you wouldn't be on the car lot if you didn't need a vehicle. Like you're going to drive by that car lot every single day. But once you turn in, there is sort of an expectation of like, well, you obviously are here because you need something. You need to solve a problem. Right. So let's solve it together. And so I think the whole like pushing for closes and all of this weird like objection handling, like I don't buy into most of that. And I'm a VP of sales, but to me it's relational. If you need it, I already assume you need it. I assume that's why you're here. So let's just maybe it's an assumptive close. Yeah. But the assumption is that you need this. I can help you solve it if we find out what the actual problem is. And so that's the focus for me. It's not like on this active closing. Like I've never been in a room and be like if someone I've had a couple old school guys, right, where they want the printed contract and they want to sign their name because it's like this awesome experience, right? Like there's an experience to putting your signature to paper. That's super cool. I'm here for you. Yeah. I'll print that out. I'll give you the pen. I'll let you do the thing. But like for me, for the most part, it's, hey, do you want to do this? Yeah, let's go. Cool. We got to meet your deadline, man. Like your deadline is like, you need this in 120 days. We got to save you some money. We got to get this thing on a boat. We got to get this going. So to me, it's more about problem solving, and you work yourself into it because you've got to solve the problem, and they have a deadline. So deadlines actually probably drive the ship 80% of the time.
Wow.
Yeah, a lot. Like deadlines, which we all know deadlines are in your industry, they're real, but in corporate world, they're not really real. They just are deadlines so that they have a way to spend the money.
Yep.
So
Right. So it's almost like a demand thing. It's almost like a sell me this pen. Oh, do you have paper? No. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So it's like, okay, that's,
I don't like this.
that.
I don't like the sell me this pen thing because I think it goes into old school. But to your point, well, do you have a piece of paper?
Right.
Yeah.
It's a demand. Yeah. It kind of drives that.
Yep.
That's awesome to me. I don't know. Sales is like one of those, like, kind of fits into like public speaking where it's just like, it's more of like your character and how you develop the things that you don't see, and then you bring them on there. It kind of makes things easier. So you're already a people person. You're already a good hang. It's just like a natural progression.
Well, that's what I found out, right? So I didn't know
Right.
that. I was like, to me, when I walked into sales day one, I was like, I know about LED. I know the technical parts of this.
Yeah.
How do I apply the technical things I know to what my clients need? And it really does come down to both.
Yeah.
In what we do, you better know what you've got, and you better know what the problem is. And then as long as you're a good hang and a people person, which were the skills I developed through 10 years of being in a band, driving around, just making sure I was a good hang.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
apply all of that and you end up with something that is tangible that, hopefully my clients don't go, yeah, he's a sleazy sales guy. They're like, no, he's just a good hang and he's got a product I want. Like, that's the idea.
If you feel that way about John, reach out. I want to know just
Yeah,
for
get some
blackmail
feedback.
later. So we can have some good info.
Yeah.
You got any other good ones over there?
I mean, yes, of course. I got a bunch of good ones. I don't know how. Might have to omit some of these, but it's
Let's
all
go.
good.
I'm into that.
Well, it's like
You can edit this?
a little bit.
We're actually just going to use black marker. We'll just redact it in the video.
Redacted.
Did you have any of your bandmates kind of like give you like some like, hey man, why are you doing this sales when they did find out? Because you said it was like a year until like they knew that you were in the sales. Did you have any of them kind of like,
No,
what are you
opposite,
doing, man?
Opposite. When I finally called like my best buddy and was like, hey man, like, I'm like doing well. Like, I'm doing well. Having fun. I'm actually in sales.
Automatically they think you're a telemarketer just calling people
you
up
have
all
to
the time.
explain it, right? And
Yeah,
so,
All of a sudden, he's Gordon Gecko.
Yeah.
but they'd known that I'd been out with casting, and like they knew that I'd been doing LED, and it was like, oh yeah, that's totally makes sense. How come you haven't told me sooner?
Yeah.
And it was me getting over myself, right? And that was the main thing.
So that was my second question. So, kind of reflecting back on this, was that really just an internal struggle for yourself?
100%.
To kind of figure out
Well, and keep in mind
who
that
you were.
Keep in mind the guy I was coming up under that I was learning from. I mean, he was a classic sales guy, and
Right.
so learning what I didn't like about that process was just as helpful, right? Like, oh, I don't want to do it that way. I want to do it my way, and like having the ability to like bounce ideas off was super helpful for me to kind of identify how I wanted to do it, because that's the whole thing in your first probably 2 years of sales is, well, how do I sell?
Right.
What works for me? Without being calculated, but just living in the moment and just
Yeah.
letting it happen and have the conversations happen.
Right.
But yeah, the guys were totally cool with it. Like, oh, it makes total sense. Like, you're, at the end of the day, that's all we were technically doing on the road. Technically, it's just you're applying it into something that actually was going to make you some income.
Right, of course. And how was the outside pressure? So by that I mean like maybe wife was like, hey, I don't know, this doesn't seem like you. Parents, family.
Yes. Yeah. So, I would.
Before you answer that, so how long were you guys married while you were still doing the band thing?
So
Good question.
We were married for about a year and a half, 2 years.
So she's got 2 years under her belt of you doing the band thing.
Yep.
When you guys
So
when you do the switch.
Yeah, when we met was right around the time we were getting signed. I actually proposed right before I left to go do the first record.
Okay.
And so we had our whole engagement. We were actually remote. We were separated. Like, she was living in Texas, I was in Minnesota or Seattle. And so we had done a lot of life together apart from each other. Whole first year of marriage was the most dates I ever did. I did 152 dates that year. Was gone all the time. which is a great time to do that because you're still like in the romance phase, and so you're
Yeah.
not sick of each other yet, and like
Right. Still building up some kind of desire in there.
So like it was okay. It was looking back, it was a terrible idea, but it worked
Yeah,
out really
it worked
well. And so for me to get out of touring full time, she was just happy to have me around. Like we actually had a life. We could actually find a church. We could actually like plant in Nashville and actually put some roots down. Cause before that I was like couch hopping. So for her, she was pumped and like,
It's like a relief for her.
big
at that
time,
point.
just because, you're actually gonna be around. And it was actually an adjustment that way because she was used to me being gone 3 times a week,
Right.
coming home 2 days, leave again, like with the whole, like, just that was the touring life, right?
Yeah,
and
yeah.
so the adjustment for her was, wait, I have to deal with you all the time.
Right. It's like, wait, I'm seeing him more than I don't know about this.
So it's obviously the timing of it was great because we just were able to almost be like, oh yeah, this is what I'm like all the time. Are you okay with that? So no, the adjustment period was really interesting.
So I guess trying to tie that into your question, I guess really was there any kind of outside pressure just because that was so new for you guys? Like, I guess really there wouldn't have been anything, I guess the expectations at that point, there weren't really any.
Nah. So, I think it was wanting to do the music career, and everyone being like, yeah, you're very talented. Like it's pretty tough to do, like, good luck. And so being able to, I didn't want to be on the road forever. I loved being on the road. I loved doing production, but I didn't want to do that forever. And so to me, it was more or less, is this a good time for me to step away from being on the road? I've been only known being on the road.
Right.
Like that's all I've done. And so the external pressure was just, am I going to be okay with that adjustment for everything?
Right. Like that internal talk is like, will I be able to do this long term? I'm going to be happy with that.
Because you got to keep in mind the expectations of when you're doing a band and like you're doing the van thing. Like everyone's like, wow, that looks amazing. But everyone's like,
Yeah.
good luck, buddy.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
like, and that's okay. So the external pressure was maybe more, I was more inclined to stick with that.
Right.
Because I wanted to prove everybody
Right,
wrong. And that was the dream. But like at the same time, production was awesome.
Yeah.
But man, getting off the road was pretty cool too.
Yeah. It's definitely, I mean, we've talked about it a ton of times.
I was going to ask
still
you
an
that.
adjustment.
Yeah. I was going to ask you that. It's like, do you look back and you're like, oh man, I wonder what could have happened. Because it's always, I mean, that was going to happen, right? It's like, I wonder what could have happened if I just went a little bit longer, if I just stuck in there.
Yeah.
Do you think about that often, or is it like you already kind of made your peace with that and you're just like, this is what it is?
Yeah. So I love what I do. I've really enjoyed kind of growing and learning about myself and what I'm capable of here. So like, I don't want to discount that in any way. Like I love what I do. Like it's awesome. And I see Instagram posts of my buddies, right? Like one of my good friends, he just posted, and like the producer that we worked with on our second record and him and Dashboard Confessional, we're all working together in a room like a couple days ago. And I'm like, we were right there.
Yeah.
All the same players doing all the same thing, cause like there's only room for a few every year, right? Like the industry's tight. And so like we were right there working with all of those guys, and they're all still doing it. They're all still making it. We were just didn't work out from a timing perspective is really what it comes down to. There's like three specific stories of the band career that if that would have been different, if that would have been different, and that would have been different, we'd be somewhere else. We'd all be somewhere else.
Right.
And then we probably would have imploded because we were children.
It's all about timing.
Our
man.
prefrontal
That's what it comes
cortexes hadn't developed. So
Yeah.
it's all timing. Then.
Would have
But
been
yeah,
like too much.
that's really what it is. It's not a regret thing at all. It's more of, we were right there. Confirmation.
Yeah.
We were right there. Confirmation.
Yeah. We're going to start closing this out. Is there anything you wanted to get in there, Kenny, before we...
I think maybe just we started kind of at 20 mil.
Yeah.
So we're over a decade after that. For the tech heads, where do you see it going from here? What's the future in LED starting to look like from your end?
Yeah, see, now that's some good stuff there. So the nerdery is you're always trying to solve a problem. So you've got to identify the problem, and then you've got to find the tech that solves the problem. And so when you look at tour production, it's always going to be lighter, faster, stronger, and reliable. If you get those four, you're pretty good. So I think it's always going to push towards lighter, faster, reliable. I think the industry is in good hands. I think we're getting there. I think it's still, it's always going to be higher resolutions in my side of the world.
Sure.
Getting everything to look more and more like a TV, because the golden goose is, can I put it in your home? Can I put it in your hand?
Yeah.
Right. So being able to replace some of those technologies, like aging TVs at the airport, we've got the tech for that. Like that's where it's all going to go. Because as those TVs age out, let's put LED in there. Let's put LED in there. So that's kind of the main things, is just, the other thing is just getting it to be as more consumer friendly.
Right.
You know, we're holding classes and courses to get these guys trained up and get them ready to go for the tech world to be able to survive when something goes haywire on the road, which it will, or on the job site, install site.
But the
being able
average
to,
consumer doesn't have that option.
that's I think the next step is how do we get it to be something that you can follow an IKEA instruction and end up with a wall that works.
Yeah.
And so I think that's where we've got to get it. And that's kind of what my focus has been, is getting it to be more user friendly is maybe the next step, because the prosumer level, it's not even at the prosumer level yet. It's not quite there yet, because you've got to have that tech guy to come in and make it work for you.
I mean, I just thought it's kind of following the path that projection followed.
Yeah.
You know, because there was a while where you only had projection in your house if you had a lot of money and you had to hire an AV company to come in and put in the drop down screen and hang the projector. And now we're at a place where you can hop on Amazon and for sub $1,000, you can put in what would have cost you 25 grand.
Oh man.
You know, 10 years ago.
My buddy just bought one for his little, he has like a short throw. I mean, short throws were so expensive when they first came out, and he just grabbed one off Amazon the other day, and it looks great. I'm like, well, good for you, man. But that's where it's going to go, right?
Yeah,
like,
so we're following that same path.
we really are. We really are. And then it comes down to it's going to go two different directions, and it already kind of has, but it's going to go the direction of that line of being more user friendly, buy it and set it up and it works.
Yeah.
And then you're still going to have that road-worthy product that is able to get up, put up, taken down, put in the truck, survive, getting taken out to the rodeo and get mud on it, and it survives. Right? So you're going to have kind of those two entities of like the rugged, reliable, fast, and then the more consumer grade. It's ready to be used anywhere by anyone. And that's where it's got to go, because there's all sorts of where it came from. It came from overseas, and so to be able to get it actually ready for a U.S. consumer, there's a lot of uphill to that.
Sure.
But that's where it's got to go.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like the process, early adopters and all that stuff.
Yeah.
Yep. We're definitely on the backside of early adoption,
Yeah.
just because everyone knows what it is now. They've been to New York. They've been to Las Vegas. They've seen it.
Yeah.
And so now it's, well, how do I use it for what I want to do?
Yep.
Right. It's funny you say about the airport thing, because I've been noticing that a lot more. It's like you don't see those TVs anymore. It's like more LED
Like an
adopted.
installed screen.
Yeah, I've seen that a lot. I forgot which airport it was, man. And I just saw like a whole bunch of LED like in the hall. Was it in the like a major hallway? But it was like it stretched across the ceiling, and I was like, "Whoa!" And it looked like it was like I don't know, maybe like
Well,
a
it's
couple
also
months.
it's starting to replace like I think maybe it was JFK, like some of those long hallways with the moving sidewalks where it used to just be like posters and shadow boxes.
Yep.
Oh yeah,
You know, along the whole wall. Like now that stuff's starting to get replaced with LED.
Right. Like
Because it can do something to catch your eye, right? So that's the thing that makes LED easy to sell, is that you're looking at reflective glass all day on your phone. You're looking at your computer screen, it's reflective glass. You go home to your TV, it's a reflective glass. LED has the opportunity to have completely different contrast ratios, brightness levels, the way that it extrapolates color. It does something to your eye and you notice it. In a world of not noticing digital, you notice LED and there's that thing. And they're able to make it look different. It's not just a bunch of TVs slapped together. They can make it something completely different. You can curve it, you can shape it.
Yeah.
And that's where it gets exciting, right? Like you can actually do something to it that's going to catch your eye. And then as soon as you have the eyeballs, then you can sell to them, right?
Yeah, for sure. One last thing before we close this out.
Yes, sir.
What are some of the, because I don't know if you could tell, but I'm very into like the daily processes of every day. So, VP of Sales for PixelFlex. What are some of the things that you do on a daily basis that are just part of your routine? I mean, we could go back to the books, say reading or something like that. I know you're a big golfer.
Yep.
You practice your swing. I don't know. What are some of the things that you do on a daily basis that you're just like, this is just part of what makes me do my thing.
Yeah.
Helps me do my thing.
So, kind of back to that learning who I am thing. One of the things I've learned recently is that I have a pretty short, high burst battery. So I am not a guy that can just do long, tedious tasks for a long period of time and be just like an extreme doer. I'm actually like a short burst, do something, take a break, recharge, do something, short burst, take a break.
Nice.
And so knowing that about myself has been massive because, you know, there's just some people in the world that they're doers in an Excel spreadsheet all day. There's other guys who are like water cooler talk. They feel like they've accomplished something. I'm somewhere in the middle. So for me, it's more about recognizing what I'm capable of. And so I work in short bursts. That's been a huge thing for me. So if it's reading, I'm reading in short bursts. I'm only going to read like a chapter or maybe two. If I'm listening to an Audible or a podcast, I'm not going to listen to the whole thing in one shot, and just being okay with that.
Right.
And that applies to my work as well. The only thing maybe it doesn't is golf, because golf I can go.
I was going to say I was going to bring that in. I'm like, wait a minute. With golf, you kind of have to go in there for a bit, especially if you're playing like 18 holes.
That's John Lewis. He's only playing 4 holes, and he'll be out of here.
But here's the difference. Here's why it works. Because golf, you don't pay any attention to what's going on. You're living your life, and then you step up and you get in the zone for 8 seconds. Hit your shot, and then you turn off again.
Yeah.
And so for me, because I turn on and off well, I'm able to lock in and then come right back out of it and hang.
So it's like in small doses kind of thing.
Small doses. So that's why I can do the doses over and over and over again and not lose the ability to be like bored or whatever. Like I'm always able to just lock in and then come right back out of it and just hang out. Lock in. Nothing else in the world matters other than that stupid golf ball that's going to go the wrong direction. I'm going to hit it and then I'm going to come right back out of it. That's why golf works for me.
Yeah. I see that now.
So that just taking those small chunks and small doses of intense activity is what I'm really good at. And that goes for any behavior. So I'll go in. I'm also like I don't know how to word this exactly. I'm like a hobbyist that's very, like, I just lose focus on it. So like, I love hobbies and I have.
Let's call that ADHD.
There it is. Yeah. I have a lot of like extreme hobby. Like I'll be into drones.
Yeah. Hyper-focused.
Hyper-focused on drones. I want to know everything about it. I want to know how to edit it. I'll come ask you 1,000 questions. Like, are you using DaVinci? Are you using Premiere? Like, let's learn everything.
And then once you get a mastery of it,
I move on to the next. Not even mastery. I'm good with 80%.
Yeah. Well,
I'm good with 80%.
I think in the world of ADHD, I think mastery is probably 70 to 80%. I know enough to know what I'm doing, and I'm good to move on.
And that's it. And so I do that with a lot of stuff. So I think that's maybe the thing that causes all of the strife is my wife's like, what are you buying now? And I'm like, well, I'm super into this and I'm going to do this forever.
It's funny. My wife and I were talking about, we should create an ADHD exchange program. So you could take, you're done doing drones, but I'm into drones now. We could swap whatever our hobbies are. So I could give you all the crap that I bought. And then we could just change out everybody. I was into welding last month. So here's all my welding stuff. Yes. I'm going to take all your stuff from, whatever. Yeah. I was like, that's actually probably a smart idea.
But then you come back and get it. It's like, you know what? I'm back into it after 3 months.
I was like, the problem is nobody will stay on task long enough to actually make that happen. That's the problem.
Wait, I have to drive to your house to do the exchange? I don't know about all that.
I don't know, man.
So somebody that doesn't have ADHD, that's a business $1 million idea for you right there.
That is $1 million idea. But yeah, that would be the best way to describe, and that's a daily basis. So I describe myself as a squirrel at work, but I'm good to focus on any given thing. So to me, it's shiny object, shiny object, shiny object, but I accomplish something everywhere I go. Yeah. And then I tabulate out what did I not do, and then I'll come when I have focus and knock something off the list. So
like self-awareness is like part of that major ingredient in that.
Self-awareness is everything for me lately, because if I don't have the self-awareness, then I can't ever get anything done.
Right. Yeah, fit that in there. Yep. I don't know, Kenny, man. This might need a part 2 with this, man. I feel like I haven't even unloaded the whole clip on this. Like,
well, I think we're getting to a place now that we. Our first episode we talked about how many did we say we had to do? I think it was 60. It wasn't that many. It was
12.
12.
Yeah.
So we're almost halfway there.
Yeah.
So I think now that we're kind of figuring out this thing, I'm almost to a point. I don't know that in 45 minutes to an hour is going to be long enough anymore.
We're going to have to start spreading these out, man.
Yeah.
Elongating these.
But, if you're open to it, I think we should definitely dive back in, maybe do a little more of a tech-heavy
Yeah, I was going to say.
Because I liked where that was going. I think there's more meat to that. To
Yeah,
talk
we
about.
barely scratched the surface on that.
We stayed high level on LED and its use cases, which is totally fine. And this is more origin story,
for
villain
sure.
origin story stuff.
Like an intro. It's an intro.
We're trying to figure out if he's the superhero or the villain. We're following that story right now.
Yeah, it's time for the deep dive.
I am the VP of Sales, so that's
It really should go. It could go either way.
Yeah.
No, I think this was great. I think it was a great way to start the year. So thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
And by coming out, I mean coming a couple doors down.
to
meet us.
Looking over.
I'll roll the tennis ball back to your office.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm gonna do a couple quick plugs real quick.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
So if you're in the market for LED, hit up John.
You know a guy.
Where should they reach out? Is it a sales ad? Should they hit you up directly? Where should we send them if they're looking for?
Yeah, so I mean, PixelFlexLED.com, and then just contact. You can grab the 800 number, or you can do. I think it's sales at PixelFlexLED.com. That's going to be a more generalized form versus like going to our contact page on our site. But PixelFlexLED.com will get you a long ways started.
Bunch of products on their website. So if you're looking for something, poke around. There's a bunch of good stuff on there.
Yep. Custom, outdoor, indoor. We've got it pretty dialed.
And of course, if you're not in the market to buy, but you're in the market to rent, we know a company, EliteMultimedia.com. Reach out. We have some PixelFlex product in stock.
20 mil.
I don't think we have.
You don't.
I think we have one piece of 20 mil as kind of a. This is where we came from.
That's right. I actually pulled it out of the trash heap. I was like, no, we got to save this for our legacy.
Nostalgia, man.
Yeah.
Purposes.
Yeah, but I can. That's the only one I can repair. We have a full team that repairs them. That's the only one I could repair.
Yeah. So that's. We should mention that we have in-house repair. You guys have room and staff here on site to do repair of 99% of that, right? Just a couple of specialty products that you guys can't do.
That's right.
In-house.
That's right.
So yeah, if you're looking to purchase, hit up John and his team. If you're looking to rent, hit up me and my team.
And we'll repair his stuff.
Yeah, they do. Matter of fact, I think you guys have some of our stuff right now. Yep. I think the second thing, again, we're moving into this. So I think if you guys are watching this, there's something you want to see, somebody you want to see. Let us know. I'm not guaranteeing that we can get anybody, but I would love to know kind of what people are thinking. Yeah. Now that we've got our legs under us a little bit.
Hit us down in the comments. Let us know what's going on, what's in your mind, what you want to see, subjects we want to touch on. Yeah. Specific questions you want us to ask the guests. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
To kind of go into that, and then we'll look at them and then decide if we go through it or not.
Yeah.
Or totally discard them or actually pay
Maybe
attention to them.
we don't like any of you guys. No, I'm kidding.
That could
we
be
like everybody.
I mean, I got some hats I could throw in the ring.
We've already got a couple of really cool people lined up for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Coming up in January, we're going to try to knock out several podcasts so we can have some fresh stuff for you guys.
Yeah.
The end of the year, we kind of slowed down because there was a bunch of stuff going on with the move. But I think
holiday stuff, you know how that goes.
I think you guys are going to start seeing.
Got a lot of good stuff in the works. 100%. A lot of good stuff.
Nice.
John, appreciate you.
Yeah.
Coming down. We got to do a part 2 for sure.
Let's do
coming
it.
up soon. And that's it for the Tormageddon podcast. Until next time, thanks for watching.
See you later.